speaking on In Focus. We will follow the sermon with a moment of silence for those who wish to reflect.
The world around me whirls. Too much information floods my system, and all I want to do is focus. Focus on what's at hand, figure out what I have to do, and just do it. I don't want to be outraged. I don't want to be banded around with much of my experience being dictated by what I have no control over. I can only hope that the words of the Reverend Ralph Waldo Emerson, that what we persist in doing becomes easier to do, not that the nature of the thing has changed, but that our power to do has increased. I can only hope that it is true. I want to persist in realities where I have agency. I am desperate and dutifully determined to find and maintain that focus. I continually ask myself, what do I want to do here, now? Right now, I just want to remember that what I have to focus on are simple and persistent steps I can take. But in my chaotic world, finding focus is a fleeting reality. So often I find myself mindlessly getting caught up with some distraction and reacting to situations that, one, do not get changed by my ranting or opining about them, and do not provide me with any sort of solace or energy to deal with them. I want to be focused on steps that change outcomes. There's so much information coming at us every minute. Trouble in the world bombards our senses, our sensibility, frays our nerves, and fuels our moral outrage. Yet in this common experience of overstimulation, we find ourselves together this morning in a space set aside for reverence and connection. And I'm hopeful that together we can set down the chaos of the world and explore ways that we each might find a still point, a moment of focus. Merriam-Webster defines focus as an action verb, meaning to concentrate attention or effort, or to adjust one's eye or a camera to a particular range, to focus in, to focus on. For me, focus dispenses with distraction and the confusion of the moment and leads to deliberate action and direction for how we want to spend our time and our energy. Sullivan County, New York energy activist and exemplar Dick Risling speaks about it this way: define the job and get the work done. Be authentic in what you can contribute. Simple enough. If we frame this in our opening words of Ralph Waldo, figure out what you're persisting in and persist. The world won't change necessarily, but your ability to maneuver in it will. For this service, I teamed up with poet, photographer, writer, and naturalist Sandy Long, who practices much of the same relationship to nature through photography that poet Mary Oliver had with her words. Oliver according to a eulogy by the New Jersey Conservation Foundation, found happiness in nature. A victim of childhood sexual assault, her poems tell a lifelong story of how being in nature made her feel safe, happy, and alive. Quote, "We all have a hungry heart, and one of the things we hunger for is happiness. So as much as I possibly could, I stayed where I was happy," she explained in an interview with Maria Shriver of O Magazine. Quote, "I spent a great deal of time in my younger years just writing and reading, walking around the woods in Ohio, where I grew up." We're going to start with her poem, Why I Wake Early, and some photos by Sandy which demonstrate a focus on being in nature as a way to make meaning in the glare. Why I Wake Up Early. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories and into the window of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness, in kindness. This place, this focus of wonder and awe in the natural world helped Mary Oliver find solace and sustenance to live her unique life and to make a lasting contribution. And now we'll just have a moment of reflection as we look at a few of Sandy Long's images and thoughts about finding focus in nature. How it can feel when things are chaotic and uncertain. How it can look when seeking one's path. How it can feel when furry friends bring solace as we find ourselves lost or adrift. Finding our place within our communities. Finding focus through interactions, finding focus through finality and coming to terms with our impermanence. Finding focus through interactions, observations, and encounters with the natural world via our senses. Finding focus through interaction and observation. Experiencing the world through our senses. Finding focus in encounters with the natural world. Finding inspiration in the focused efforts of others. Finding our love in the world. Interestingly enough, research has shown that focusing on one thing at a time is much more effective and healthy for your brain and that there are pitfalls to multitasking. According to Wu Sei Neuroscience Institute at Stanford University, a growing body of research has found that it's far less effective to try to do two or more things at once than to focus on just one task at hand. Multitasking can interfere with working memory, cause students to do worse in school, and could even create potentially long-term memory problems. It has to do with brain science. When we take on a task, three significant brain networks dealing with attention and cognitive control are involved. Attempts to multitask can create interference among those networks, and this can lead to slower processing as well as mistakes, explains Kevin Paul Madore, a neuroscientist at Stanford. Quote, one way we can examine the effects of multitasking on behavior and the demands it places on relevant brain networking is to analyze task switch costs. A switch cost is a loss of accuracy or speed that comes from when you shift between tasks. Though some of the costs of multitasking are subtle, they are by no means trivial. Too much multitasking can interfere with both working memory and long-term memory. Research by Madore and colleagues found that heavier media mass multitasking is associated with attention lapses and forgetfulness. However, it's not clear what's causing it. He writes, some research has indicated that chronic everyday media multitasking is related to errors in our ability to hold and use information in mind, or our working memory, and our ability to retrieve information, which is our long-term memory. But he adds that more research is needed to determine the direction of the causality. Quote, when you have competing sources for attention, your task performance is often going to be reduced. And not surprising, and totally apropos to our conversation this morning, there is at least one situation where multitasking can be your friend. Studies have shown that when taking a walk while trying to sort out a thorny problem improves creativity and can help you come up with a better solution. A quick perusal of the internet can assist you in changing your habits in terms of removing temptations to get lost or distracted. One of those suggestions is when working on your computer to only have one window open, to put your phone or other personal electronics out of sight and reach, or to practice very specifically concentrating on one task for 25 minutes and then taking a break. It's ironic that through our technology, we are learning more and more about our bodies, minds, and spirits and the connections between them. We are learning more about how substances and habits that we've grown accustomed to and are encouraged to adopt as part of our lives are not actually designed for our own well-being, but rather to encourage us to be more voracious consumers. My simple message for today is that as we learn about and experience our deteriorating world, we have the choice to focus our reactions. And I am advocating that we pay attention to what we pay attention to. As you move through your day, notice what you're focused on and become aware and persistent in making sure that it's actually what you want to be focused on. As the story of the tiger and the strawberry, we are reminded that in any situation, we can savor the sweetness and the simplicity, as well as the complexity and irrationality of our lives. The prelude music, where there were 12 versions of Leah all singing a different thing, was not relaxing, was not inviting us into reverence and reflection in the same way than when it was just her daughter singing the words. Our world has a way of moving us past our focus to the trivial, to the conflict, to the division. Our job in this precious moment is to focus on living and leading in love, in interdependence, and with persistence to bring peace, equity, and creative action to our precious planet. May your focus be where you want it to be. May it serve you, indeed all of us, as we maneuver in this critical and beautiful time. I end with another poem by Mary Oliver, and it's called Drifting. I was enjoying everything, the rain, the path, wherever it was taking me. The earth's roots begin to stir. I didn't intend to start thinking about God. It just happened. How God, or the gods, are invisible, quite understandably, but holiness is visible entirely. It's wonderful to walk along like that, though not the usual intention to reach an answer, but merely drifting, like clouds that seem weightless, but of course are not, are really important. I mean, terribly important, not decorations by any means. By next week, the violets will be blooming. Anyway, this was my delicious walk in the rain. What was it actually about? Think about what it is that music is trying to say. Something like that.